We're talking about who's going to run in 28. Can you imagine? I don't think it can be Kamala Harris. I don't think it can be Hillary Clinton. I don't think it can be AOC, but maybe George Clooney will make the final decision, right? We got news on the real reason one George Clooney actually decided to write that op-ed in the New York Times, taking Joe Biden totally out and putting Kamala Harris in. Apparently he's not very popular in Hollywood circles right now because they figure he totally lost it. You know, he did. I mean, when Donald Trump was defending Joe Biden, because he's like, gee, that's kind of mean what they did to him, right? Deep state in action. Oh, we don't think you can win it, so we're going to take you out in the 11th hour. Unbelievable. And believe me, it was no accident that Jill Biden wore red, head to toe, when she went to vote on Election Day. In other words, the Biden family did not appreciate this move from one George Clooney and the Democrat establishment. But it seems the real reason, when it all comes down to things, is George's ego was a little ruffled. You see, apparently, Biden had no idea who he was. And, you know, that's one way to really get under the skin of a Hollywood actor. Watch.
With us now is CNN anchor, chief Washington correspondent, and fantastic author, Jake Tapper. Jake, tell us more about that moment between President Biden and George Clooney and how it ultimately led to Biden dropping out of the race.
So thanks so much for having me, John. So President Biden came into that Los Angeles fundraiser June 15th. And behind the scenes, there were little tiny fundraisers for the big donors. There was the event on stage with Jimmy Kimmel and Barack Obama, but then also behind the scenes, photographs and smaller speeches for big donors. And it was there that President Biden walked over to George Clooney, and Clooney realized, and other people witnessing realized, that Biden did not recognize him. This despite the fact that they'd known each other since roughly after 9/11. They'd had many meetings when Biden was vice president. They'd known each other for a long time. Biden had awarded him a Kennedy Center award in December 2022. And obviously, Clooney was throwing this fundraiser for him, a record-setting fundraiser. Biden was just walking around saying, hello, thanks for being here, hello, thanks for being here. And an aide said, you know George. And the president was like, yeah, sure, how are you? Thanks for being here. And the aide had to say, no, George Clooney. And it was just shocking for everyone involved. And in fact, it wasn't just those in that specific conversation that were shocked. President Obama was there. He was stunned. He attributed it to the rough schedule that Biden had going from Europe to Delaware, back to Europe, and then to LA. But he realized later on that it wasn't just the schedule that was the issue.
So George is like, I'm sorry, you don't know who I am? I'm taking you out. I mean, who doesn't know who George Clooney is? For goodness sakes, unbelievable. Look, here's the reality. You know, I know, everyone knew that Biden was a disaster. I mean, how many clips did we run over and over again? They used to call them cheap fakes, right? They were cheap fakes. When you would say that Biden was not kind of what he once was. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. How could this not be something that you would recognize and understand? I mean, Biden was in a pretty tough spot. And yet, KJP said, no, nothing to see here. That these are nothing but a bunch of cheap fakes, remember? KJP, she is darn mad about what she calls cheap fakes.
They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith. And some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these right-wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation.
Cheap fake. Do you know what cheap fake is? According to the newest meme going around, any unedited video of Joe Biden's cognitive decline that the Biden administration does not want the public to see. You got that right. KJP, clever, but no one's buying it. Yeah, I just say insane that they would look at things like this. I mean, we played the entire video, all of it, guys. remember this moment at G7? I know I keep showing it, but it was just my favorite sort of example. And I love the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, exiting the group. She's like the only one out of the crew that notices that poor Biden is wandering off because he's so entranced by the parachuter over there. And then she's like, no, we get a photo op. And he doesn't quite know what to do. He's trying to put his sunglasses on. He's so slow. And you know what? Unfortunately, if you've had any experience with this, and sadly I have, probably a lot of you have. I mean, you reach a certain age and those that you love often go through something like this, and you see it and you know what it is. But every time I played any of these videos, I mean, even when he would zone out and the reporters were asking questions, I mean, those were unbelievable moments. Anytime I did that, I had to be like, well, I'm not a doctor, because immediately people would jump on you and say that's a cheap fake. And I'm like, it's not a cheap fake. This is the raw video. This is what we're all looking at. Can we just be adults in the room and actually call it what it is? But no, you couldn't call it what it was, because the media Gestapo would go crazy on you, totally crazy on you, including Jake Tapper, who, by the way, is so proud. He's out with a brand new book that he wrote with some Axios guy, Thompson, and the two of them are like promoting this thing. And I'm just grossed out because this is a total scam. Jake Tapper, don't forget, he was the guy who got all over Lara Trump just like a couple of weeks before the big debate where we all realized, okay, well, I mean, I realized it way earlier. You realized it way earlier. The whole world knew it. It's just that the media was trying to go with some stupid narrative that he was the best Biden ever, right? And yet, Jake tried to take out Lara for saying that the guy had a mental decline. She accused him of saying that Biden has a stutter. And what does she say to kids everywhere? I mean, it was surreal. This is the guy who's trying to make millions of dollars now, selling you a bunch of additional lies.
Every time he comes on stage or they turn to him, I'm like, Joe, can you get it out? Let's get the words out, Joe. You kind of feel bad for him.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
You have
to watch somebody on stage search for
that's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were
stuttering,
mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar. Plenty of people have diagnosed your father from afar, and I'm sure it offends you. Your father-in-law from afar. I'm sure it offends you. You don't have any standing to say.
I'm not diagnosing him. What I'm saying, Jake,
you just talked
is
about
that
a cognitive decline.
That Joe Biden
I have one last
struggling
question for you, Laura. You can't
times on stage, and it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel sorry for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure.
And so he just cuts her off. This is the guy trying to make millions of dollars on a new book that you better not buy.
Jake Tapper here, Alex Thompson from Axios and I.
Gonna turn it up.
It's coming out next Tuesday. It's called Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. The book is drawn from more than 200 interviews with mostly Democratic insiders, almost all of them after the election. And one of the things we were shocked to learn, the White House physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, talked about how if Biden had one more fall, he might actually need to be in a wheelchair. But this was all put off until after the election. They did not want images of Biden in a wheelchair out there. You might recall that Biden started to have problems with a shuffling gait that the administration was very sensitive about. There was a time when they started having people walk with him to Marine One. Those people were there to kind of like hide the fact that his gait was as bad as it was, and also have them there in case he stumbled. The White House would say that this gait issue was because Biden had fallen after the election of 2020, but the truth is that it didn't have to do with that. Dr. O'Connor's medical report said that that injury was completely healed. This had to do with other degenerative problems.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. So the guy who tried to sell you a bunch of goods and tell you that, Biden was just fine is now trying to profit off this new book. And I kind of just, it's to be expected, I guess. These people are just commercial animals, and that's why they did what they did, frankly, for 4 years. And now he's seeing a new commercial opportunity where he can write a book when he was the one who was guilty of upholding this idea that somehow Joe Biden was absolutely stellar. And then it was only when his buddy George Clooney, along with David Plouffe and David Axelrod and Obama, came to him and said, maybe he's not doing so well, and it was decided that George Clooney would write this op-ed. Then he decided to come forward, and he was, Mr. Tapper, I'm all over this. That is not a good Joe Biden that we're seeing. And then he got on CNN, and he started saying that over and over again. And I would just say, guys, you know what? I see through every single bit of it. This is what you call CYA. Tapper's in a CYA move because he believes that if he can write this book and make a pretty penny off of it, then maybe he would be better off. I do think, though, that it may have a little something to do with him getting in with the in crowd. I mean, is he trying to impress, shall we say, one George Clooney? George Clooney did this big interview with him, and Clooney's like, I'm just trying to do my part, blah, blah, blah. I know I'm not very popular anymore, but I'm just trying to do my part. And, basically what happened was Clooney became the main source in the book that Tapper wrote. And Tapper's trying to clean up his own reputation and George Clooney's simultaneously, all while charging a pretty penny to do it. I'll tell you, these people, it's like totally shameless. You know who else is totally shameless? All those people like Jen Psaki, who sat there and tried to tell us it was A-OK. All those people like Morning Joe, best Biden ever. Remember that one? I mean, totally, utterly pathetic. So, you know what? Just don't watch them. They deserve the ratings they're getting. They deserve to go out of business, and they will. Believe me, mark my words. That's why we're over here. It's why I've had opportunities to go back. I just got somebody called me the other day, wants me to go back to regular television. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, I'm having a blast. This is fantastic. I don't have to deal with any middle management bosses. I get to say whatever I want to say. And I got you guys. And we're building something that's actually my own. I mean, think about that. The Trish Regan channel, which I think we're going to rename to the network, right? This is something, thanks to all of you. I mean, upwards of 750,000 subs. Thank you. It's incredible.